First of all, thank you to the 20-ish of you that decided to come out. I saw there were, 50-ish people that attended Sheldon Gray's e-clinic on Tuesday, and about the same for Coach Hall's yesterday. So I was curious to see how many would chime in to see a video and data analysis presentation, which isn't as fun as, linebacker skills and drills and blitz scheming and head coaching philosophy and things like that. But I do believe that in this day and age of not just football, but in all sports, analytics and technology is part of the game, no matter what level you're at. We're starting to see a lot more analytics being used in the NFL and NCAA and obviously the CFL, and the teams that can kind of manage it, like the Rams were obviously using it quite a bit. But it's just that extra piece, that edge to get a competitive edge, that extra piece to get a competitive edge that coaches and teams are looking for, that are helping them make better in-game decisions, better game planning, better post-game breakdowns, and not just in season but off season. Technology and analytics is being utilized throughout the off season in strength and conditioning, in rehab and physiotherapy for athletes. GPS tracking is becoming a much bigger thing. So the things that I'm going to be focusing on a little more is just as it pertains to Hudl, and kind of how you can use Hudl and the tools and features that Hudl provides to allow you to do some more in-depth analysis. And really this whole presentation, what I really want it to be about is asking questions. That is the base fundamental of analytics, is asking questions. So the first question that you might have is, what's the difference between video and data analysis? Are they not one and the same? Short answer is no. The medium answer is you can't have data analysis without video analysis. You can have video analysis and not have data analysis, but it's kind of pointless. And the long answer, we'll get into it as we go. The second question that you might be having is who? You may not know me, but you've seen my work. Like most traditional support staff people, we're not seen on TV. We're not really featured on the sidelines or anything like that, or the commentators never talk about us like the offensive coordinators and head coaches and things like that. But what we do is mightily important. And again, you've seen my work. I film all the Rams games, Thunder games. I've filmed even high school games when I have some time. So I've filmed most of your games. If you're a local high school coach, I've probably filmed the sideline or end zone angle for you guys. So just a little bit about me. Currently, I'm with the Regina Rams. I'm the video and analytics director and defensive assistant. So I do have some little bit of coaching responsibilities and helping Sheldon Gray out with kind of weekly game planning and practice planning, getting scout cards done up and things like that. But I'm also a coach. I've been with the Regina Riot since 2015. Currently, I'm the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, and obviously video coordinator. This is my first season in that role, so I'm kind of excited to bring 12 years of coaching experience and knowledge that I've kind of picked up from coaches at all levels across the province to the Riot, and obviously my analytic background into coaching. I also work quite closely with Football Saskatchewan, with their U18 team primarily, that competes at the Football Canada Cup. I started working with them a little bit in 2017, but not until 2018, 2019 did I really start helping them out with film and breakdowns and analytics and things like that. So I'm looking forward to a three-peat this year, 2020, which is going to be in Vancouver, hopefully. And formally, I was with the Saskatchewan Roughriders as a full-time seasonal intern from 2017 to 2018, working in their football research and development office, which is just a fancy way of saying video office, but we did a lot more than just video. We were heavily involved with the draft, with free agency, putting cut-ups and things together, doing all the heavy leg work and basically getting nice clean cut-ups of all the draft prospects and potential free agents to the coaches and general managers so they can make their decisions. I still work with them quite a bit through training camp and on game days, filming their end zone angle for games. And unfortunately, I was cut out of the organization due to the football up salary cap, which was a little unfortunate. But things are rolling along, you know. Can either sit around and pout about it or get back to work and keep going for every other opportunity that's out there. It's not about replacing a coach's intuition or feel. Stats just add another weapon to his arsenal. That was a quote from an article that was actually done in Hudl, by Hudl, with Tucker Zeleny. He's the head of analytics for University of Nebraska and a gentleman that I've been able to connect with via email and phone a couple times over the last few years. Tucker is the head of really the first ever dedicated sports analytics department at an NCAA institution, which is really cool. You have a lot of teams that have, you know, quality control coaches or certain coaches, like University of Illinois. They have a gentleman by the name of Kingsley who is at AFCA talking about analytics a little bit. So teams are starting to use them more and more, but Nebraska is really ahead of the curve with an entire department dedicated to analytics, not just for football, but they work with basketball and soccer, volleyball, and numerous other sports as well. And that's really a key important thing to remember, is that analytics we're not trying to replace coaches. Analysts do not come into an office, go to a head coach or a general manager and say, these are the numbers, this is what you should be doing, or this is who you should be drafting. That's not the case. And for some coaches, some old school coaches, that's what they're somewhat partially a little afraid of, is that analytics are, you know, here to replace and basically take the coaching away from the coaches. And that's not the case at all. And I'll kind of use Chris Jones as an example of that. Very, very successful coach in the CFL. With, you know, everywhere he went, he won and had success. Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, Edmonton, and a short time in Saskatchewan. Didn't get a Grey Cup in Saskatchewan, unfortunately, but pretty much everywhere else he did. His first year with the Riders, didn't utilize us at all. Kind of the thinking was, you know, I've been successful doing what I've been doing. It's been working out. I'll leave it at that. But by the end of his second season, he was starting to come down to our office more and more and asking us to run this report or that report on various things. And it was not necessarily to get him to say, hey, this is what you should be doing. It's to kind of back up a feeling or an intuition, his gut feeling that he had, and he just now had the ability to have numbers to back that up. You know, one of the big things that he was really on was not necessarily on the football side, but on the player health side was sleep. You know, many meetings, he started the day asking if guys were getting enough sleep, because he found this analytic study that professional athletes should be getting this much sleep, and if they're under that much, they're less prone to have success in the weight room, on the field, and things like that. So it got to the point where we were close to getting sleep pods put in at the stadium, which would have been really cool. But I think the coaches would have used those more than the players. But just, that's just an example of analytics backing up and adding to a already successful coach's feelings and intuition to the game. The best thing about analytics is that they are like a piece of art. They are not answers, they are what the user makes of them. That's a quote I got from another analytics presentation that I thought speaks a lot. Like I said, like when the report comes out and it, something says, hey, this happens 80% of the time, this is what you should do. No, it's, how you interpret it, how you want to use it. It's what you make of it. So, there's really no right or wrong way of doing analytics. There's many, many different ways you can do it. What I will say is that there's efficient and inefficient ways of doing analytics. And that's what one of the things that I'll be talking about is efficiency. That's kind of been one of my big areas of study in Can West and youth sports. So just a little bit of analytic talk here. So the stages of data analysis is to pose the question, collect the data, record the data. So that'll be more the collect the data, record the data. That'll be our video analysis portion. And then the data analysis is processing that data and then representing that data, whether through reports or visuals or anything like that, and then interpreting the results. And then you have the epicycles of data analysis. So you state the question, you collect the data, start exploring the data, and you realize that, hey, maybe I need more data. So you go back to collect more data, and then maybe you go back to rephrasing your question or asking another question, and then collecting the data, exploring the data. Eventually you'll build a model, your report, how you use it, you interpret it, communicate it to your coaches and players, and then it comes back around again. And that's not just a weekly thing, that's not just a daily thing, that's a yearly thing, off season and in season. Statistical analysis. I hope this video works and the sound comes through, because I found this part of this scene from Imitation Game quite interesting.
While we develop a system to help you determine how much intelligence to act on, which attacks to stop, which to let through, statistical analysis, the minimal number of actions it will take for us to win the war, but the maximum number we can take before the Germans get suspicious. And you're going to trust all this to statistics, to maths.
I always found that interesting. Like, a lot of the times you've heard, and I don't think it's politically correct anymore, to say, going out on the football field is like going into a battle, into a war, your players are soldiers and things like that. But, World War II, like this was, Alan Turing using an analytics and statistics once they broke the Enigma machine the Germans were using to code their messages. They used statistical analysis, to win the war. So if they felt it was pertinent to rely on that in that situation, I think the least we can do is use statistical analysis in sports and in football. So I always found that clip interesting. The movie itself is really good. So some of the topics that we'll be going through is the three purposes of video and data analysis, video analysis fundamentals, video analysis content, a quick guide to Hudl tagging. What I will say is, especially for the high school coaches, if there's only one thing you take away from this presentation and you're not already doing it, it's Hudl tagging. And I'll get into it more when we get into it, but Hudl tagging, I think, will be, if you're not already doing it, you should be doing it this season. Now, one of the downsides of not being in a room with you guys is I was going to have you raise your hands to see if you were already doing Hudl tagging, but we can't really do that, but that's fine. Scott McCauley raised a hand. There he is. So the Thunder are using it. A couple others are raising their hand, 3. So that's good. A quick look at advanced data visualizations. It's not necessarily something that I recommend doing, because it does take some time, but just wanted to show you some of the data visualizations that I have used in the past, to kind of give you some ideas of kind of how to use your data. Traditional box score stats, building your Hudl sets and columns, forms and fields, and then exploring some of Hudl's features. And then at the end, just an open discussion, time pending, which I think will go until we can't go anymore. But at any time, if you do have a question, throw it in the chat, and Dave will let me know, and I'll do my best to answer it for you. So the 3 purposes of video and data analysis. What is the difference between video and data analysis? Video analysis is tracking the data based on the video. So what I've always said is that good analysis starts with good video. And in Regina, we're really, really lucky that we have good video, not just at the university and junior level, but at the high school level. Myself and Nick Boley and his crew with the riders and some of his filmers, we film all the high school games at the stadium, so you get the same quality of film that the Rams and the Riders and the Thunder do. Libel is pretty good itself. I will say the end zone angle is much too low for my liking, but you know, it's part of playing at different facilities and things like that. But there's, you know, other ways around that, but still good video. Data analysis is manipulating the data from the video into usable reports. So it's a 2-step process very much. So the first purpose of analysis is diagnostic, asking why. Why do we struggle in this situation? Where does our opponent have success on second down, et cetera, et cetera. The second purpose is predictive. What will our opponent do on 2nd and 7 from 20 personnel? I got this from another analytics, football analytics session. So 20 personnel, more of an American term, but you know, 32 personnel, 23 personnel, 2-back personnel, 5R, whatever. When will our opponent blitz boundary, et cetera. And then finally, decision support. How am I going to defend this offense on 2nd and 3 between the 55 and the 35? So those are the 3 purposes of video and data analysis. And this is just another kind of look at it, the levels of analytics. I got this from the AFCA presentation on traditional versus advanced analytics, which I'm glad they actually had this at AFCA. It was the second time I went down to AFCA for the conference, and the first year it was chalk talk, it was skills and drills, schemes, and things like that, which is all good and important, but you know, it was good to see that Edge Analytics was the company that hosted this, and AFCA found it pertinent to include it in the talks. So they had 2 high school coaches, and Kingsley, the gentleman I had mentioned previously, works at the University of Illinois, did a kind of a town hall forum session on how they use analytics. So they kind of use the same thing. So data and stats, you start with descriptive, what has happened with your post-game reports. Then you get into your advanced, predictive, what will happen, pre-game matchups, coaching customizations, predictive, what should be done, in-game critical calls. One of the big things in the American game is 4th down, decision-making on 4th down, when and where to make those decisions. You know, analytics is allowing coaches to make better decisions on that situation. I remember reading a story a couple of years ago when the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. Their head coach used analytics to make all of his decisions on 4th down, and they went for it on 4th down and converted 4th down more than any other team. and they felt that that was a critical piece of why they were so successful that year. So this is just another thing. I talked about good video makes good analytics. So again, I would have, used that raised hand thing if you film your practices and not just your games, because the more you can film your practices and analyze your practices, not just your games, the better off you are. Now, obviously, you're out on a field that has no real vantage points for filming. This is a really inexpensive option that gives you great results. This is just a $60 window washing telescopic pole from Home Depot for $60. It stores at 8 feet. It can go up to 20. You can get bigger ones, longer ones. You get this little adapter on Amazon. They range from 26 to 66 bucks. It's just, it screws onto the top, and then it has a little 1/4-inch adapter for your camera. And then I just have this quick release clamp mount and a phone holder that goes on the pole itself that you can put your phone on. And then you just have a GoPro, which, $500 at Best Buy for a Hero 7. You can get a lower model. Doesn't matter, as long as it works with the GoPro app, and you can get a really, really good, effective, solid angle, whether it's sideline or end zone, for inexpensive. And it's mobile, and it's great. Making every coach happy with a single camera angle, priceless. I use this a lot for the Rams, indie time, D-line, receiver, quarterback, doesn't matter. One-on-ones, O-line and D-line, and receiver DB. I've used it for both. Inside run, skelly. It's just a great multifunctional tool for inexpensive price that can make your life as a coach and breaking down your practices a lot easier. So video analysis fundamentals. To start off with, decompose your offense and defense into all of its meaningful parts. What I mean by that is kind of consolidate your data into categories to aid the exploration of your performance. So I've seen some coaches, they put their play call, their entire play call, whatever it is, into a single column. So it has your personnel, your formation, motion, protection, and play all in one column, all in one spot. Break that up. Break it up into, this column is for your personnel. This column's for formation and motion. Or break that up even, formation and then motion. It just will make your analyzing at the end a whole lot better. And then consolidate data into categories to aid into doing that. So, whatever your inside zone run is called, just have another column that, play family or play type, play category. Name it inside zone or inside run. So, whether it's a dive play or an inside zone, it's still an inside run between the tackle run, so you can differentiate that from an outside run. And I'll kind of show some examples of how that helps in breaking things down later. Capture details from both sides of the ball in your breakdowns. So as a offensive coordinator, when I'm breaking down a defense, I also want to make a note of and break down what that opposing offense is doing in that game. And again, I'll keep it real simple, just inside run, outside run, quick pass, drop back, play action, zone read, whatever. Because that information will help show where the team that you're breaking down and preparing for will kind of show their weaknesses and their tendencies a little bit more. If you just say, hey, on second down, on second down and medium situations, they were allowing 4 yards a carry. Well, what type of run were they utilizing, the opposing team, what kind of run were they utilizing to get 4 yards of carry? Was it an inside run, outside run? Or was it a zone read? You know, were they leaving someone unblocked and read by the quarterback? So that information is very helpful when doing your analysis. The content, contextual data, data that can be known with more than 10 seconds on the play clock. So if you're down and distance, field position, personnel, hash, clock, weather, so on and so forth. Kind of your situational data. And this is where Hudl tagging comes in very, very handy. I'll use Sheldon Gray as an example. When he started with the Rams in 2015, he was the defensive back coach. He would have to go in, and he did this the next year when he was the DC. He'd actually print off the play-by-play from the game the day before, have it next to his computer screen, and he'd just be typing in, okay, that was 1st and 10 on the 35-yard line. It was a pass, incomplete, you know, knocked down by so-and-so. That takes forever. It takes forever. I've done it myself with the Riot and with Football Sask. It takes a long time. Hudl tagging will decimate the time you spend on that stuff. So reactionary data, data that may not be known until less than 10 seconds on the play clock. Formation and motion, front, backfield, so and so. And then finally, subsequent data that can be known post-snap. Blitz, coverage, route concept, play direction. So understanding and having all of that, not just parts of it, but as much as you can, will help your analysis tenfold. So just some examples of contextual data. So this is just an example of where you can use this stuff. So I have a self-scout offense, opposing defense, self-scout defense, and opposing offense. So down, distance, yard line, hash, personnel, quarter, clock, weather, score, you can include it in all of these breakdown forms in all of your data sets. Reactionary data, formation family, again, talking about categorizing and consolidating your data. Strength, is it strong right, strong left, field boundary, motion direction, front, safety location, receiver alignment, are they bunch, are they 32, are they 23, tight end, whatever, and then backfield. Now, you can set up your sets however you want. This is just a wide open example of how you can set up your certain things. But it's also wise to have individual sets and forms, just so you don't have 50 fields like I do, unfortunately, that I have to break down just to make things a little bit easier on yourself. And finally, subsequent data for offense: run pass, gain loss, play call, play concept, ball carrier, receiver number, receiver position, not just who it was, but where was he on the field, protection, play direction, pass zone, and gap, where the ball was run to. Subsequent data for defense: front family, coverage family, blitz family, blitz direction, stunt, and tackler. Again, just examples of different things that you can use to track your data for your video analysis. So these family field references that I was talking about, I won't get too much into this, but these are just some quick examples just to make things a little easier for yourself at the end. And if anyone wants this presentation, I can send it to them. If you ever want to chat about things or want some other ideas on how to set things up, I'm always available. My information will be at the end. So tagging a game in Hudl for contextual and some subsequent data. Time saver. Absolute time saver. So make sure your game schedule is already in on Hudl. before the season starts. As soon as you get it, put your game schedule in. Ensure your roster on Hudl is complete. That'll make things a lot easier for you for your player stat reports at the end. And then you can begin tagging. All teams and all schools in high school, they still have to keep and track stats for the league. And as far as I know, at least the last time I was coaching high school, it was still being done by your stat keepers with pencil and paper in the media room, in the press room at the stadium, or up in the press box at Libel. What I would strongly encourage is get them to do it this way, because you can get that out, you can get it printed out to an Excel sheet and have ball carrier, catches, receiving, quarterback numbers, tackles, all that stuff, all the stuff that they're already tagging and tracking with pencil and paper. It'll all be done, and then this way you can just take this and put it right onto your video and match it up right away, and you can spend more time prepping for your next opponent than breaking down games. So this is from the iPad app. When you go into tag a game, home kickoff, home receive kickoff. And then if if it's your schools, it'll say, Riot versus Valkyries or whoever it is. So Riot kicked off. So on a kickoff, the kickoff was caught on the 2-yard line. It was returned to the 25-yard line. And this is just, just scroll up and down. Kicker was number 2. The returner was number 5. Tackler was number 11. It was kicked from the middle hash. Finish tagging play. Done. It'll do all the calculations. It'll know how far the ball was kicked. It'll add up the return yardage right away. So all those stats are done. So it's 1st and 10 from the 25. You have your previous play stuff on here. Quarterback scramble, interception, quarterback sack, punt. So it just, as the game's going, just, tag it as you see it. You can fix it in later if you make a mistake. You can edit the last play, as you can see there. So if the game is kind of going fast, for your stats keepers, you can kind of clean it up later. So, it was a pass play, gain of 7. So automatically it charts it to the 32-yard line. The passer was number 8. Receiver is number 7. So if you have your roster, your roster and the opponent roster in here, instead of numbers, it'll have player names. I think it'll have numbers and names. So it'll keep track of that a little better for you afterwards. So again, strongly encourage, if you're not already tagging in Hudl, start doing it this year. Train up your stats keepers, whoever they are, players, parents, other teachers. Get them to do it this way. It'll save you a whole lot of time, and it'll get your stats to you a lot quicker. And then you can get it onto an Excel sheet and send it out. Is there a question?
Yeah, Coach Retz, how many people do you, how many person job is this? Is it one person that just looks at it and types it in, or typically is it one person giving another person information, or how does it usually work, or what's the best way to have it work?
I'd say the best way to do it is it's a 2-person system, so you have somebody spotting, with binoculars so they can see the numbers a little better. Some jerseys are easier to read than others. I won't say who, but the Calgary Dinos, horrendously horrible numbers for tagging. Just the way the font is and the color scheme is, you just hard to see those numbers, even on film afterwards. So best way to do it is with a 2-person system. Have someone scouting, say, okay, the ball was caught to the 33-yard line, so you can set it, set your yard line, how it was attached, where it was caught, and then the gain will populate, or you can do it vice versa. But I've done it myself. Just watching the film afterwards. You don't have to do it live. You can do it afterwards. Just watch the game as you go and tag it. I've done it while filming. You know, I'd start the camera, and then as I'd put in the contextual data that I knew, and then I'd film the play, like, okay, that was a pass to so-and-so for this many yards. So one person can do it fairly easily, but I would recommend, if you can do it with two, do it with two.
And also, Coach Retz, is it possible to have 2 or 3 people tagging games at the same time, or does it have to be done on one device?
That I'm not sure of. You probably could, because afterwards the data will just attach in later. So I don't know if it'll trip over itself when you start combining it with your film. I've never done it with 2 different devices, but I would say it is possible, but I'm not sure how it would work.
Okay, thanks for that. And then another one here is, do you have any suggestions for how to efficiently tag a game from an upcoming opponent if you don't have anyone to live tag? So I'm assuming it's kind of what you said there about doing it as you watch it. You know, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so when I do this for Football Sask, I will try my best to watch our opponent, our upcoming game live. Like I'll do all the games themselves, but some games I don't end up doing live. So once I get the video sent to me from Football Canada, I'll put it into Hudl, and I'll just have Hudl on my computer with the video, and then I'll have my iPad next to me, and I'll just watch the play. I'll tag it. So instead of typing it in, I'll tag it on the iPad and then merge that data in afterwards.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah. So advanced data visualizations, again, not something that I would say that you should do, but if you have some students that are, good in Excel and things like that, and you want them they're interested in kind of playing around with some data and some visualizations, this is definitely something you can do. Get them to make some bar charts and pie charts and things like that. Send them to Derek Lamer. He loves those pie charts. But this is just some of the stuff that I've done with the Riders and the Rams over the years. So this is just your typical quarterback hit chart. Just the yellow line is the line of scrimmage, and just, scatter plots of where the ball's being caught, or green dots are incomplete, green are complete, grays are incomplete, reds are interceptions. And then it also has what route it was that's also attached to it. So that dig route over the middle of the field that O'Connor threw. Might have been an overthrow or something like that. But it just kind of gives you a real quick visual of where a quarterback likes to throw the ball. I started doing it this way. This is more of a heat map, tree map kind of way. And this is what I did with the Riders in 17-18. And I would give this to Jason Shivers and Travis Moore every week, one of these every week, both a self-scout and an opponent scout. So this is all offenses, so every other offense against Calgary's defense. So you can just, again, really quickly see, bam, middle of the field, line of scrimmage to 12 yards deep, between the hashes, they're completing everything. So they're leaving that open for a reason. They're letting things being caught underneath, because as soon as you start throwing 13 yards or more, really starts getting a little more difficult. So this is just the data that I tracked for this is field zone. So using actually the same data from my hit chart, we have an x-axis and a y-axis of where the ball was caught. So 0, or technically you can go into the negatives, and then up to 65, or however deep the ball was thrown. So that would be your y-axis, and then your x-axis is 0 to 65, sideline to sideline. Again, take some time. Only if you have the time and you're really interested in tracking that data would I recommend doing it. But then based on the coordinates, I broke it into, hook, curl, flat, deep boundary, deep field, middle, deep middle, things like that. And just again, a quick visual. As soon as Shivers and Moore, as soon as they saw this, boom, they can say, okay, this is what we can do, and this is what we're good at. This is what the opponent is bad at. So how can we incorporate this into our game planning? This is another one I did for Shivers and Travis. Individual
Coach Gretz there.
Yep.
What do you do those? What application do you do those heat charts on?
This is a program called Tableau. It's a fairly expensive program. It's a data visualization program, but there are others out there that are less expensive, if not free. I think Power BI is another one that you can do some for free, some fairly decent visualizations and things like that. So just type in analytic visualization software and you'll get a couple hits, but this is done in Tableau. Again, Power BI can do some stuff as well. And Excel can do some of this stuff as well if you're good enough in Excel. So this is just another quick one. Again, we note where the receiver, the targeted receiver, not just who it was, but where he lined up. 1 weak, 2 weak, 3 weak to the boundary, 1 strong, 2 strong, 3 strong to the field. And then tight end, simple bar chart in the top left corner to show kind of who was getting targeted more, and filters that can, any situation, 1st and 10, 2nd and medium, whatever it is. And then the route that was run, that was targeted, was it a dig route, curl, hitch, whatever. And then again, color visualization to show where success was. The more green it is, the higher completion percentage. The more red it is, the lower completion percentage. So again, just some ideas. So like I said, start asking yourself questions. This isn't just for offensive, defensive coordinators in your game planning. If you're a DB coach, for an example, have your own data set of what you want to track, where a receiver lined up. So if you're getting ready to play an opponent and they have a stud receiver, where is he lining up? And is there a correlation to which routes he's running based on where he is in the formation? Does he move around? Does he go from 2 weak to 3 strong, anything like that? And does he run different routes from that? So that's pertinent information that a DB coach can improve his coaching during the week and teaching his DBs and things to look at and certain things like that, just as an example. Quarterback tracking. So again, something I did, this was something quarterback or Chris Jones really liked. He wanted to know quarterback accuracy. He saw a visualization in a NFL magazine or an NFL stat book that kind of had this heat map on the left side of kind of where balls were thrown at the receiver. Were they high? Were they low? Were they accurate? Were they right on the numbers? Anything like that. And then I did a kind of a progression. This was for Zach Caleros over 6 games. So you can see, against first game against Edmonton, super accurate. But then over the course of time, he started getting less accurate. So, I gave it to Chris Jones, gave it to Coach Walsh, and they were able to kind of look at things and, why was he more accurate against Edmonton and Calgary than he was against Ottawa. And again, so just that data analysis and visualizations, helping to ask questions again to start the process again and kind of help your players progress better. So traditional box score stats in football. This is where I draw the line. What you see post-game on TSN or the Score or anything like that, that does not tell how a game goes, because those stats are so far off in telling how the game actually went. So I'll use an example. Following our 2017 Week 5 game against the Huskies defensive back Brett Beckler was awarded Canada West Defensive Player of the Week for registering 12 tackles in a losing effort. The Can West people that decided that we're looking at for All-Stars or Players of the Week, they just saw, oh man, this guy got 12 tackles in the game. He had more tackles than anyone. Let's give him the Player of the Week for defense. Well, I looked at it a little closer with my efficiency stats. His tackling efficiency was actually 0%, and his coverage efficiency was 50% in that game. So my efficiency numbers, an efficient tackle on first down is basically just the inverse of an efficient run on first down, is, was the tackle held to 4 yards or less on first down if it was a run play, or if it was a pass play, was it held to 7 yards or less? And then, so I have the inverse for an efficient run and an efficient pass. So his tackling efficiency was 0%. So if they had known that information, I highly doubt they would have given him the Player of the Week, because the reason that he had so many tackles is because we were targeting him a lot, and his tackles were being made after a first down had been attained. So he might have been saving touchdowns, but he wasn't stopping drives. So the kind of reliability on traditional statistics is no longer adequate. And there was an article in The Athletic a short while ago on traditional stats and how they should and shouldn't be used anymore, like sacks. Sack rate is not a good indicator of defensive success. You should be looking at overall pressures, like Coach Gray had spoken about at his talk. It's not just about getting sacks, it's about getting pressure and making the quarterback uncomfortable. So that's something that we had started tracking a lot more. It's not just sacks, but quarterback hits, pressures, scrambles out of the pocket, things like that. And what is the ultimate question in sports and how to win games? The answer is in the stats. We just need to find them. Just checking my time here. It's 10 to 8, so I'll start speeding through this stuff a little more so we can get into Hudl, actually. So again, I'll send these slides to anyone who's interested in them. This is just some of the data that I've been tracking over the last 4 years with passing and running efficiency and how it pertains to winning games. Short answer is second down efficiency has been key. Over the last 4 years, 75% of games have been won with better receiving efficiency on second down. So just a little insight into the stuff that I do with my analysis. High probability tendencies, minimum number of occurrences. So in a normal game, if you have 2 games of data on an opponent, you roughly have 120 to 140 plays. So you want to see something happen 5 times before you would consider it an actionable occurrence, something that you can key on. If it's 150 to 200 plays, happen 6 times, it's something you can key on. 200 to 201 to 250, 7. These numbers, you can set them up however you want. It's not written in stone how you want to do it. And then minimum level of confidence based on your personal preference, but anything less than 50% is not actionable. If something happens 30% of the time, don't spend a lot of time game planning for it. So building your Hudl sets and columns. So now that we know what type of data we can track, we must now figure out what is important. And this is a question that I pose to my coaches every offseason, is what do you need to know? Not what you want to know, but what do you need to know? Because for myself and the coaches that are actually doing the breakdowns, if we're spending time adding data for something that we don't end up using, that is time wasted. So for me personally, to do a single breakdown for a Can West game, I take about 2 minutes per play. So if there's 120 plays of offense and defense in a game, I'm spending 2 to 4 hours on a single game adding in the data that we need for our reports. So the video analysis part is the longest and most tedious part of this entire process. So really break down and kind of write out what you need to know for your opponent and for your self-scout, because that will save you time in the end. It's different for every coach. So what do you need to know? And I'll show you some examples from the 2019 Riot season and kind of how I broke down my data here. So I have 2019 Riot offense, all plays. So this is every play that we ran on offense during the 2019 season. I can get my there we go. So I like Hudl for certain things, but I like DV Sport for other things. So Hudl is pretty good, but there's some things about it that I don't quite like. Although I will say they have a new feature that they've put in this year, which is called quick filters. If you haven't seen it or haven't been on Hudl for a while, quick filters right here. In your top right corner, try new features. It'll turn on quick filters. It's been even just myself getting ready for the 2020 season and making cut-ups. It's been a bit of a time saver. So as you can see, this is kind of my data set that I use to break down data. So ODK, down, distance, yard line, hash, play type, all this stuff, this is done and taken care of through Hudl tagging. So all I have to go in is copy in my my play call. So talking about breaking up your pertinent information into different categories. So formation, this was Morgan Bunce's offense last year. So he had running back spot, running back alignment, receiver motion, protection, and then the offensive play, the play concept. Play result, gain, loss, quarterback number, passer number, receiver. Again, all this would have been tagged in through Hudl tagging. So I would add in, so really after that, all I have to do is start adding in this. So I put in, I was the quarterback coach last year, so I put in the quarterback drop, quarterback accuracy, 1, 2, or 3. 1 accurate, 2 catchable, 3 uncatchable. Quarterback grade, you know, did they just a 1 or a 0 binary system? Did they do their job or not do their job on the play? Play direction, run to the left, run to the right. You can go field, boundary, middle, however you want to do it. Gap is a Hudl field for where you're running the ball. So this Juliet is our jet left. So the gap was the E gap to the alley, to the 8 hole, however you want to call it, or the 7 hole rather. And then here's your play category. So again, it's a Juliet is what we call it, but it's a jet play. So looking at this next one is house. It's everyone has a house concept, just a two slant. I categorized it as a quick pass, just to differentiate it from a drop back. Then we have our defensive fronts, our blitz, and opponent blitz direction. So this is a different way of doing things, tracking blitzes, and I have two different reports that kind of show how tracking things normally, how I've seen traditional coaches do it. Will weak C, max strong B, max strong A, will strong A. Ultimately, I can just go 5-player pressure, boundary. The blitzer came from the boundary. 5-player pressure, middle. 5M, middle. 5M. 5F is a Sam Strong C. So again, I got this off of, I think it was an AFCA article. It was how a coach tracked his, an offensive coach, how he tracked opponent blitz and front tendencies. And then you have coverage, and then coverage family, just real simple, man or zone. You have cover one. Some people have variations of cover one, and they'll put in different cover ones, different cover threes, different cover twos, but at the end of the day, it's man or zone, man or zone. Again, this is not, I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, it's just a way to do it. So as we go into these reports, so Hudl has a lot of pre-built reports already in here. If you just click your cut up and go to reports, summary, field zone, hit charts, what's next, down and distance for defense, blitz, front coverage, player stats. You can create your own reports quickly and easily by going create custom report, and then you can save your template if it's something that you use regularly. So this is how a traditional blitz breakdown came out. Will weak C 13 times, 10% frequency. Again, if something happens less than 10% of the time, less than 50% of the time, why should you be wasting your time with it? So, and then you have all these ones and twos of different things, threes, fours, hard to kind of get solid tendencies. So running the same report, that same base blitz report in Hudl, now you have 5M, 45 times, 36% of the time. So at least now you're getting a little more discrepancy in kind of the way things are going. So for middle, now this was from a 3-front when we played the Edmonton Storm in the semifinal last year. They ran a 30 front, so they would send 4-player pressure most of the time. But, compare that to 4 pressure from the field. It didn't happen very often. 5-player pressure from the outside, from field and boundary. So what I kind of take away from this is I should be telling my O-line coach, if we're going to get pressure, expect it to come from the A or B gaps. Not necessarily what strength, but the A or B gaps. That's where we're going to see the majority of our pressures. So again, they break it down into blitzes by down, by front. So again, having more information, the more information you have in your data set that you're tracking, the better these reports will get filled out. So coverages, again, cover 1, cover 3, hold, cover 0, cover 3 cut, prevent, cover 2 man, cover 2 zone. Again, you get a lot of different numbers. If you just break it into man and zone, now right away, 47% of the time, we're seeing a lot more man than we are zone in all the opponents that we saw last year. And then based on our offensive formation, so Toronto, when we were 3 receivers to the right, trips right is how we called that. We saw a man 87 out of 148 times, so 59% of the time we saw a man when we were in Toronto. 61% of the time when we were in trips left. So again, just being able to break things down, categorize things, kind of cleans up these reports a lot better. Again, this is your down and distance report that Hudl provides. Again, just make sure you have the data fields set and populated that these reports are pulling from. Field zone, goal line, 55 to 21, 21 to 54, and then backed up 0 to 20. Kind of shows your offensive tendencies of where you're throwing the ball. Formations, you can add in your formations into Hudl, and then what plays are run more out of those formations. Similar front report, similar to the blitz and coverage report. This is a hit chart, a run hit chart. So again, this is that gap field, gap column that we use, so we can see right away, you know, we attacked the outside, the E gap, 7 and 8 hole a lot last year with our jets and our tosses. We hit the B gaps quite a bit, more so on the left side than the right. And then we didn't really go D gap very much, if at all, and C gap not very much at all either. And then this is just by strength, if you have the strength field set as well. So this is something that some of the reports that I did. So I did it by player. So we had 2 primary running backs last year, Rebecca Koutsianopoulos and Jenna Merck. 2 very different players who at the start of the year, we, myself, Coach Harrison and Coach Bunce, kind of figured based on their body type, on their athleticism, that Merck would be good at certain things and Rebecca would be good at other things. Well, when I started doing these after about 3 games, when we started having enough data that we can really get some solid information from, we only play a 4-game regular season. So right away, at the start of the year, we figured Jenna, who's a quicker, more springy athlete, would be better on tosses, on toss plays. So we tossed her the ball right and left, Troy and Tilly, a lot, but her return was 1.9 yards on Troy's and 2.2 yard average on Tilly's, which kind of took us aback. We were a little surprised by that. And then we come down here and we see she was averaging almost 8 yards on counter lefts. So, you know, I showed that to my other coaches, and they started making those adjustments in game. So when Merck would go in for a series, Bunce would know to not call toss plays, call more counter plays, or this one, a DeVille trap run where she was averaging 5 yards. Then we come down to Rebecca, who we didn't necessarily think would be better at the Tillys and Troys, the toss plays. She was averaging 5 yards on Tilly and almost 10 yards on toss plays to the right. So after the first 3 games, you know, these numbers were quite a bit lower. Afterwards, we started, when Rebecca was in, we would be running toss plays a lot more with Rebecca. So again, just using your, after you've done your video analysis, this is now your data analysis, looking at kind of how you can make decisions based on the numbers that you're getting back. So then we got, you know, other players. Chanel was pretty good at tosses and jets and inside run plays too, almost 8 yards a crack when she ran it 4 times. She played more slot back, but would come into the backfield every now and again. Just want to see if I can find, well, this would be a good example. So just a run play, efficiency by run play. So our Tilly, you're averaging 4.2 yards. Our Troy, averaging 5.2 yards. Both are toss plays at the end of the day. And then Zorro and Zelda were our two inside run plays. We just had two names, one for the going to the right, one for the going to the left. We had that for all of our run plays. So again, I would just categorize that into, this would be a toss play, this would be a zone play, this would be a dive play. You can go even more, go binary and just, ones and zeros, inside run, outside run. So, 33 times and 30 times for toss plays, 4.2 and 5.2, categorize that. Now your toss play 63 times, your average is 4.7 yards. So again, it just cleans up your reports a little more. So when you print these out, you're not printing multiple pages. You can just, this is how we fare on toss plays, on inside run plays, dive plays, counter plays, outside run, so on and so forth. And then, just start playing around with different combinations. So rushers by play type. So kind of a hit off of this one, not this one, not that one, this one. So Jenna Merck, again, these are all the offensive plays, the actual play calls. Just same thing, now just by category. Toss, dive, inside run, counter, outside run. So, 2.2 yards average on toss plays, 3.6 on dives, 5.2 on counters. So again, if Jenna's in the game, a lot more counters, a lot less dives. When Rebecca's in the game, we could almost run everything except for outside zone stretch plays. And she was only averaging 2 yards, but on toss plays, she was averaging 6.7. So again, just a way to manage your game planning and in-game decisions based on personnel. Another one that I did as a quarterback coach last year, I had, things right and left. I wanted to know how Amy, our quarterback, was throwing the ball to her left and to her right. So Spade was kind of our slant fade concept. When she threw that to the left, she was averaging 7.7 yards per play, and she was accurate about 48% of the time. When she threw that concept to her right, she was accurate 65% of the time, and we were averaging 23.3 yards a play. On captains on our all hooks, to the right, 6.0 yards, and she was accurate 50% of the time. She was throwing inaccurate passes 29% of the time and catchable passes 21% of the time. When throwing to her left, she was only uncatchable 15% of the time, and catchable or accurate about 80% of the time, and was averaging slightly better, about 6.1 yards. So again, going through game planning in the week, hey, when we call captain, throw this to your left side or read the left side first. In game, if we're struggling and we throw captain out there, try to let her know, left side is your better side. We need a completion on this one. It's second and 4. We need a completion. You're better off going to your left side. So 2 other real simple plays that or reports that Hudl has is just a summary report: run, pass, favorite formations, favorite plays, explosive plays, and then a what's next. So this is a bit more predictive analysis that Hudl does. So after a run of 10 yards, you can expect us to pass the ball 67% of the time out of Toronto formation, and about 19% of the time we'll throw a captain. So again, just some predictive analysis that Hudl provides for you. So real quickly,
Coach Rick,
yep, go for it.
sorry to interrupt, but we do have a good question here.
Okay.
Is Hudl tagging an extra cost add-on? And can high school coaches or stats people use their phones to tag the games on while the game's going on? Does it have to be an iPad? No,
it doesn't have to be an iPad. It can be a phone. So this is how it would look if you can see that. So Regina Riot football, we kicked off, spot the ball on the 20-yard line. Done. Collect player stats? Yes. Okay, the play was a pass. It was complete to Adrian Zuck. Sure. Or the tackler was Adrian Zuck. Done. Good. So you can do it on your phone. You can do it on an iPad, absolutely. And tagging, no, I believe it is included in your base Hudl subscription. Playbook is something that is extra, and Hudl Assist is something that is extra, but tagging, I do believe, is a base feature in Hudl. So everyone should be able to do that themselves. All right, so just to kind of finish off here, go over Hudl's new quick filter feature. So in the past, if you wanted to make a cut up on down and distance, I would have to go analyze second down, then analyze, 4, 5, and 6. And then I would have to select all those, go over here, save playlist. So again, it takes a little bit of time, a lot of clicking to do that. So now what Hudl has is these quick filters, and they have some base ones already built in, just all first downs, all offense, all passes, all runs. And then you can create your own filters. First and 10, second and 3. So that one I just did, second and medium, I can just go to filters, second and 4 to 6, done. Right there. And then I can even just go second and 4 to 6, create playlist. And it populates right there in my organizer that I had, offense, second and 4 to 6. So it's the same as this one that we just did, but just that much quicker. So if you have basic cut-ups that you like to run certain reports against, I'd go in, build these filters. So, you can go gap, so in list. So all A and B run plays. Add to quick filter. Save it as inside runs. Save quick filter, and now where'd it go? Here, other. So inside runs. So there it is. So those are all the runs that hit the A and B gap. And then you can create that playlist. There you go, inside runs. So something new that Hudl put out this year is these quick filters. So again, just go up to this top right corner, try new filters, click that on, and your filter button will show up here right next to your columns where you have your data sets. So that's pretty much it that I kind of had planned to talk about. So there's my information, my email, my phone number. If there's any questions right now, I'll be happy to answer them. But if anyone has questions down the road, as you get closer to your seasons in July and August, and you kind of forget, you know, how I set certain things up, send me an email, give me a text or a phone call, and I'll be happy to chat about things and help you get prepared for the 2020 season. And before I close off here, I was actually informed before we started that it is Dave Jackson's birthday today, 40th birthday. So I just wanted to say thank you to Dave Jackson for putting this on, and also we'll wish him a happy birthday.
All right, Reds, I appreciate that, brother. Thank you. But I know, you know what? I thought this was fantastic. I'm just jotting down, making my notes here as you're going along. You gave me a couple of great ideas that I haven't done specifically with special teams here that I think I'm going to do. You know, even something as easy as the quick filters there. But you gave me a couple ideas for some hit charts and that really can be time savers. But for the coaches out there, I want to stress that it is extremely valuable to seek out and find some quality people that want to get involved in film, okay, that can help run that program for you and take it over. It will make your program better. All right, support staff in general, film guys, equipment guys, trainers, all that kind of stuff. I can't stress the value of good people in those roles. And if you need help for training some film people, I'm sure Coach Retz would be happy to lend some knowledge. All right, and there's plenty of other resources that people can use to do that. And what it does is it gets people an opportunity also to be involved in football. And you never know where that's going to lead. A perfect example of that is the current offensive coordinator for the BC Lions. Okay, Jordan Maximic. All right, he started out as a film guy in Edmonton and took a couple coaching jobs along the way, and now has worked his tail off to get to be the OC in BC. So that's fantastic right there. I'm just checking here to see if there's any other questions. I do have one here, Retz, for you that says, how can you select the names that show up on the top of the Hudl screen? I'm not quite sure what that's referring to. That's from Scott McCauley.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's this here that he's referring to.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the overlay.
Yeah.
Can you select what goes into that overlay, or is it automatic a certain number of fields, or can you change that to the way you want to see it on that overlay?
To my knowledge, it is based on the fields that are populated in your data set. So right now, what I have here will show up here. If I just quickly switch to a different one. So right now it's just run and rush. So 4-3 under, run, rush. So it just mimics what's in your data set. Down below will populate up here. I haven't found anything specific to change any settings to change that to specific fields that you want all the time. It's just based on your fields here.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know, because that's something that we were talking about earlier, is if you had to create a whole new form to change the overlay, or if you could just keep the same form and be looking at stuff, but not everything you typed in showed up on the overlay. So that's something that's a current work in progress for us right there.
Yeah, it's not something you can do in Hudl. DV Sport, obviously, the overlays are completely customizable, and you can do whatever you want with them. But no, Hudl is limited to kind of what it shows here will show up there.
Okay, that's fantastic, Coach Retch. I appreciate your time tonight. There's a lot of valuable information. I can see the comments here from the coaches. So everyone took a lot. I know I did personally too. So thanks for that. And then we're back at it next week. Coach Durazio is going to kick us off on Tuesday, and we'll keep informing you of who the other speakers will be as we go along. And again, if you want to get involved, whether it is by presenting or you have some topic information or specific speaker information, someone that I need to know that should be involved here, please get a hold of me and let me know. And Coach Retz, again, thank you very much. Appreciate your time, and have a good night, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for coming in and listening to my long, dry talk, but I hope you found something valuable out of it.